I have a collection of folks that definitely add to the music when we think about the music and the culture of Detroit. So this is going to be a different type of discussion. Y'all know usually it's one-on-ones, but now it's a one-on-three that's bringing so much collective culture, energy, and a good feel to folks. D Cipher in effect. D Cipher, how y'all doing today?
Well, all is well.
Doing good,
All right,
doing
okay,
good.
okay.
Feeling great.
So Juuni, Nique, Sophia, y'all have added to so much of the events. Y'all definitely connect with a spot I love, the Detroit City Distillery. Big supporters of Detroit is Different. And so much other things. You know, you guys have done stuff down at the what's that? The Quinder Cut. You guys have done things and just adding flavor when I think about the artists that you all are giving opportunity to, mixing a lot of stages, not just for like younger artists, but older artists too. So let's talk about this D Cipher story. How did it come about? Why did you all start it? Who was the first person to introduce this to everybody? Tell the story.
Yeah, so back in somewhere around 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around
Somewhere around there.
I'm losing track. But a while ago, we were, we're all performing musicians in our separate groups, collaboratively together. We perform, and we have known each other for a while. So we just got together out of frustrations, really, just to discuss like, hey, I'm seeing this in our music scene here in Detroit as we perform. Nique is seeing this, Sophia is seeing this. We have some other people that we've been collaborating with in the past. So we just been convening people back in that day. And we didn't have a solution at that time. That was just really just getting stuff off our chest, and just seeing what we hear and are experiencing in common. And from that, we convened a few more sessions and just really started to get to know what the landscape was looking like, because together we didn't see anything happening like that where we could really share about what the performance scene was looking like here in the city, and how it was changing, you know what I'm saying? If it was even growing, So after convening for, I would say about maybe over a year, 2 years, we got the opportunity to get some funding behind those gatherings that we formed.
All right. So who was the first person to even start these conversations?
It was kind of Wayne and myself and Allandra. People know her as Insite The Riot. And then Sophia was always like in the mix as well, just because all of our bands like played together and shared shows. But it really came, I think at least from what I remember, like the definitive moment, we came back from like South by Southwest, I think. And all
What
of our
year?
Was it 2016?
I think it was 16.
2016.
Yeah.
And all of our bands was down there together. It was really dope. And we was like, yo, Austin has such a dope infrastructure and support system for musicians. Why don't we have this in Detroit when it's so many of us here? And like Detroit is home to Motown. Detroit has contributed everything dope about American music. And so why don't we have this here? And so, we just started really going harder on those gatherings and saying like, what can we do? And kind of Decipher was really birthed out of that kind of like for us, by us mentality, where it's like, if we can't wait for somebody to, boost up our music economy here, we're here. Why don't we just try to do it ourselves? We were always, hosting our own shows, hosting our own events. So we kind of had that DIY, attitude and spirit. And so it was just kind of a natural progression. All of us kind of, in addition to music, come out of some form of like community organizing space and kind of had an activist spirit. And so, it was just a natural formation of like, we have this amazing network. We are sharing all of this information back and forth about what's lacking, what's needed, what's working. And, I would say officially like 2016, 2017, we officially started to mobilize ourselves as a actual collective and nonprofit. And so 2017 was our
17.
first grant. Shout out to the Knight Foundation. So we got a grant to actually do the work, and that's when it really got real. And since then, we've been, grinding, expanding. We just was able to get our 501c3 designation last year. And so it's just been a constant evolution and elevation since those initial conversations to now programming a lot of different stages and providing a platform for artists.
All right, so Sophia, they said always around. What connected you to be always around? This whole concept was how they kind of introduced it,
Yeah, I say that naturally we all had this energy and just frequency of community and arts and just wanting to be better and to always elevate. So honestly, like before I met Nique, I just saw Wayne around because just like frequency. I would be going to different events and I would just see Wayne there. And then
playing drums or I didn't even introduce
no
the first time was
being
breakfast.
around.
Yeah, we were
brunch?
doing we were at a DIY event that a friend of mine was throwing called Brunch with Friends, and we had a mutual friend named Toya who does media. Latoya Coates, shout out to Latoya. And we were just at Brunch with Friends. And actually, Enid is who was doing the cooking now, which I believe she has Lucky Pistol. I think that's the name of her culinary, which is cannabis-based. And so we was just in this space, and then I got invited to Bookies, and then I ended up seeing him again. But I met Rod, who was in Nique's band.
Hey, Scott Rod.
Yeah. And then I was getting some beats because I was making my own beats, and I was like, I need to find some music. I need to find out where everybody is at. And I was very earnest about that. I love community, and I guess that desire and passion to want to be with Tribe just naturally attracted me there. And then I met Nique, and it was a wrap after that. It was just like, oh. And then we found out we grew up right around the corner from each other for adolescents in the same hood off Joy Road. Like, we didn't even know each other all the time.
Pull up exit 9 off the freeway.
Yeah. So I would say it was kind of like that. Like, you just kind of around, kind of like in the atmosphere and in the space and just the energy attracting. And that's how I came into the Cipher.
All right, so you talked about South by Southwest and everybody performing. It just also happened that everyone was performing and you all were down there and didn't even know. Y'all just kind of bumping into each other down there?
No, we went down together. Yeah, we went down together. So like Wayne's band, One Freak, we share bass and guitar players, and so my band was down there performing, so it's like the whole crew. Sophia, the guitar player, bass player, and then Wayne plays drums in her band. So it's literally like when we say a collective, it's like a collective. Like literally, we've had Sophia's band, my band, Wayne's band, all perform on the same bill, and it's like only 2 musicians have to swap out, but it's like 3 distinct flavors that you're gonna get, and so we were naturally a collective. And so when Wayne, myself, and Insite, we started doing a lot more events as Decipher the Collective. Sophia, just being a part of the family, was at the events, and I remember distinctly we was doing jam sessions at the time, like big network gatherings just for any musicians, and Sophia was like, I got an idea. I want to do this event, and I want to make it like a Christmas theme event and make it like a big charity thing. And we was like, all right, cool, let's do it. And it was dope. And after that, just to see her passion and just the ideas and that she started contributing to help our programming evolve and elevate. And so once we start like really solidifying ourselves as a nonprofit, we was like, well, just be our director of programs and artist relations, because that's just it just naturally flowed. But it's really like when we say it's a collective, a music mastermind collective, it's really a music mastermind collective.
All right, so within this collective of musicians and the mastermind, let's get to the classic Detroit is Different questions now. You guys, Detroit stories. How did you all connect to the city of Detroit? Family, what showed up first? What is the Detroit story? We know a little bit about Joy Road from your upbringing, but how did your families come about to Detroit? Juuni, we can go with you first.
Yeah. So my connection is actually my grandmother. My grandmother, she worked for the Coleman Young administration, and she was, through and through a city worker.
Okay. So she worked in the executive branch, in the executive office?
Well, she was in accounting.
Okay.
So she handled a few different things over her career.
Mm-hmm.
And but her story is she was actually working and like she was trying to like establish herself, you know what I'm saying, at first. And she actually didn't go to university and working in the administration. I forget what her very first job was, but she's from Jamaica, so she came here to work for the city. That was her first job.
Where at Jamaica?
Mandeville, Kingston. As far as like my family, we're from different parts, but like Mandeville, Kingston, St. Anne. We're from all those parts.
And just knowing, the Caribbean flavor here in Detroit, it's not as prevalent. It's definitely one of those, as I always say, Detroit, it's a cliquish town. It is a culture. It's a group of folks. But
we're everywhere.
But how did you feel like growing up, like knowing this, because it's not as prevalent as like a New York or a Boston or Philadelphia or places like that?
And you're right, because she actually moved to New York first and then came here to Detroit second when she got the job. But really, I didn't know that as a young person. The influence, or I guess maybe the history of Caribbean people here. But two facts that I do want to bring up is Highland Park was known as Little Jamaica. In part, because the factories and just because of the jobs that were here. But there were a lot of Jamaicans that used to live here in Highland Park specifically. And then also Detroit as a whole is sister city to another one of my, on my mother's side, Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas. And it's the sister city to Bahamas. So there are connections if you look deep enough. But as a young person, I didn't know any of that, So it's only when I got older that I really started to see the connections and really just how we're connected just throughout the diaspora, you know what I'm saying? And Caribbean folk, people from the South migrating north, all that culture comes with it, I could talk a little bit more about the music. I'll just touch on it. But one of the bands that I'm with is called the Gabriel Brass Band. And we're from New Orleans, but the family came up here in the 40s, in part because of jobs and whatnot. But the culture comes with it, So that's one thing that really stands out for me is the migration of people, from, the global South, from the American South, coming up north, the culture that we experience and that we build on today, that's part of it. It's the 50th year anniversary of hip hop. Hip hop, that's Jamaican music, but on the other end, Bob Marley and his era of reggae, ska artists, they were trying to make Motown music. That's how Bob Marley came to be.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's a conversation.
I got you. It's a bunch of people in that hip hop discussion right now, like it's black music. And it's like, oh my gosh,
it's a combination.
It is,
but it's different flavors, as we know. Like just black creativity is runs deep and it does connect. So same thing for you, Nique. Your people. How did you get into the city of Detroit proper?
Yeah, so my dad's side of the family was originally from Southwest Detroit, and my mom is originally from Florida, and so she was Tampa. Okay. Tampa, Florida. So she moved up here in her 20s. She was like, I was living in the South, wanted to come to the big city, and she always tells me how when she was coming up, there was like no black music on her local radio stations, all like white radio hosts. And so coming from Tampa to Detroit, she was like, this was like the black Mecca, and she just fell in love just with the whole experience. And long story short, met my dad. He was a Detroit player in true fashion, working security, and they fell in love, and here I am. And so it's kind of Floridian roots, Southwest Detroit roots by way of my dad, and then we moved to West Side, so like Joy Road, Evergreen, Tireman, and Artesian area, so kind of like the Warrendale area. So yeah, that's where my roots, really run deep on, like in that side. That's where I first started making music and getting exposed to music. My dad is a musician, like he played keys and like piano and like wrote songs. I actually was cleaning out an old storage locker and found old songs that my dad wrote. And I remember early in my household, of course, like any true 80s baby, like when music videos was still coming on prime time, ABC at 7 o'clock, world premiere, Michael Jackson video. And that was like an event in my house. And so, no matter what was happening, if it was any foolishness, turmoil or whatever, like when a music video came on, whenever an award show came on, whenever it was something music focused, all of that stopped. And that was like an event in my house. And so that kind of gave me of just a passion and a love for music. And so that's where I started writing my first rhymes, writing poetry, and just from there it's like, yo, where's the open mic? All right. And just started networking and building. And like kudos to my both of my parents for really pushing me in that area. And it's like, yo, if you gonna do it, like, be serious about it. Go, let's find some open mics. We'll drive you. We're going to sit there until you go up. Like and really, they just really saw that passion. And so they just at every opportunity, fed it and tried to support it. And it's paying off. So yeah, shout out to them.
So definitely in that natural question, you said Southwest, whereabouts your father's people from that led into here, and how deep, how many generations deep in Detroit?
I would say on my father's side 3 or 4 generations, but so
your family has been in this area for a while.
Yeah,
the reason I asked that is because Southwest Detroit has a different, the culture is different, the feel is different
for sure.
For so long, and that's what's so unique about, like, right now, so many people watching the BMF series, and when my friends from like out of town ask, hey, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, in reality, Southwest was kind of like one of the last pieces and one of the last places, I guess I would say, that a lot of Detroiters ended up migrating and settling in, because a lot of the property over there, if I don't know if people know, like, it's always been how clean is this land? How close to the factories? Is this contaminated? It's been questions about air quality, water safety, and things like that for years. And then also it was just like more like agricultural, like it was a mix of agriculture and industry there for a long time. So your family did they settle in Southwest at an early time? So they were like maybe one of the first black families in the mix
very early. I'm not sure off the top of my head what year, but Etzel in like 75. So when you talk about like those factories, there's literally right there. Like I remember as a kid, like driving to my grandmother's house in the back seat and seeing like the big Marathon oil refinery and like smelling like, like that distinct smell of that gas in the air. And unfortunately it's, when you talk about environmental issues, environmental justice, unfortunately a lot of folks on that side of my family have asthma issues and other issues. And it's, I definitely attribute it to, for multiple generations. They grew up like on Etzel Street, right off of like 75, the same house. That was my great granddad's house, and then when he transitioned, my grandmother inherited that, and and my dad lived there for a lot of his childhood years. He went to Southwestern High School, so my aunt lived there, and they was actually there until I want to say 2014. They ended up having to leave because dope boys moved in next door and started shooting up in the street, and a bullet went in my grandmother's front door, and from there it was like, we got to be out. So they relocated out to Dearborn, but for a good chunk of my childhood was Etzel Street in 75.
And I also bring that up because it was a different code. It's a we talk, I mentioned kids in certain neighborhoods, other things that stand out, but that community was very close-knit amongst black folks. Like even to this day, like oftentimes, I'm guessing your father probably kind of has roots if he just drives,
For sure.
down, the right blocks and stuff like that. Like, just pushing up Schaefer or something. People be like, hey, hey.
Oh, for sure. for sure. That was it was kind of like one of the annoying things. Like I was like, dog, like I do not feel like going to grandma's house today, because I knew that on the way there we was probably gonna make multiple stops, and like my dad was like, oh, I'm about to roll up to this the gas station right here and give me some cigarettes, and then it's like a 10-minute conversation with the dude outside the gas station because y'all went to high school together, and then it's like, all right, I'm about to roll around the corner and I'm gonna drop you over at grandma, I'm gonna roll around, and like
Quick stop.
it's just like pit stop. And I'm like, can we just get to where we're going? So like that is a for real thing. My grandmother, I always joke with her. I was like, grandma, like you so nosy, man. Like why? Because like she especially in Southwest Detroit, like they had a lot of the older houses with the big enclosed porches.
Yeah.
And so like clockwork, she would just be out on the porch just watching and could tell you everything about everybody on the block. And so when you talk about like that sense of community and like that history, it is very, very, very real. And I think it's missing now. Like you do, I feel like we don't talk to our neighbors enough. I think
things have changed.
Things have changed, but I distinctly remember that as a kid coming up.
Now people talk through the Next Door app on their phone. They be like, Next Door. Loose dog
Right.
in
Super
front of my
facts.
crib.
Super facts.
So same question. Sophia, how did your peoples come about to this city?
Yeah, my mom's side is from Louisiana. So my grandmother
Whereabouts?
moved up Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And my grandmother moved up here in the 60s. And she moved first she lived in Southwest. I just found this out. She lived in Southwest with her first husband and his mom. And then she moved to the Brewster Projects. And then she moved to I guess they had like this housing program going on, and they gave her a house on the east side by Jefferson and Chalmers area. And so she's been there all this time with my grandfather. And so my dad's side, that's North Carolina and Virginia, between that two. But yeah, that's where my mom and dad's side is from. And so I grew up on the west side off of Tireman and Ashton area, Joy Road area. I went to Dixon Elementary, and I was always asked, I was like, how we ain't never see each other? Because Nique said her mama sent her somewhere else.
She sent me out to the burbs, man.
Yeah, I went to Dixon. I have siblings. I got one sister and two brothers. So they went to Rudderman, and my mom wouldn't let them go to Cody. It was fine. And then they ended up going to Cass Tech. So I grew up in a family of musicians as well. My mom played guitar, wrote music. My brothers played trumpet. They was in the marching band at Cass Tech. And I just grew up around a lot of like jam sessions. So I have a lot of auntie, uncle figures that are a part of Motown legacy, that are a part of deeply rooted in the music, I would say the music fabric within Detroit. And I just was around it all the time. So I was used to having like that energy of cultivation of just sound music and family gathering. So I think that's how I naturally just gravitated towards having like a family ship with Nique and Wayne, and wanted to create sound and music. So I was always in like after school programs. Shout out to my parents for supporting that too. I was always writing since I was a child. I was always writing something, writing poetry and raps. And my mom was like, yeah, let's put you in a program with a triple threat, like acting, singing, and dancing. So I took ballet and jazz. And it was just like, I never knew exactly what I was going to do. I always knew it was going to be rooted in something creating. But music ended up being the thing that stuck with me the most. Playing piano stuck with me the most. And I ended up learning how to play by ear. And that's how I got into Detroit. That's what it feels like. It feels like such a full circle element, because I end up seeing those aunties and uncles like Delbert Nelson, Devlon Jackson, Carolyn Crawford. Like these are literally people who were at my house or around me, and I didn't know who they were and what they contributed to music here. And to see them now, I'm like always like, oh my goodness, so much gratitude. Like thank you for just paving the way, and really instilling in all of our community, our youth, and uh, really just being intentional about what it is they wanted to do with their gifts, because that's how I got here. So that's how I got into music and sound and community as well. Like my mom has always been involved in creating resources for children and adults. So I feel like a lot of that passed down to me, and I always want to have my hands in creating resources, and thinking about how do we honor the space and how do we make this holistic and full circle. How do we grow that? So that's what my roots are.
All right, so you went by a couple different things to unpack from that. So first off, I'm guessing you went to Cody, being that you said they didn't go to Cody.
No, I did not.
Okay, so you didn't go to Cody too. Cody, one of my
No, it was, I ain't shouting down on Cody, but no, I actually went to Voyager Academy off of Michigan Avenue in Livernois, which is near Southwest too. And that was like a pilot school because we was the first everything. So we had a really dope principal. Shout out to Mr. Atkins. Anybody who watching this know who Mr. Atkins is. I used to call him the Obama of principals. Because the first thing he did when he came in, we were in the 4th grade. He pulled up a chair, and we were just looking at him wide-eyed, and he said, "What do y'all want from me?" He was like, "We want a cheer team. We want chess. We want this. We want that." And he opened that door up to bring in educators and staff, faculty, and most of all, our parents. A lot of parents ran the after-school programming. And my mom was one of them. She started the cheer squad for the Vikings there. So if the Vikings are still there, my mom, Miss Drew, Maria, and Boogie, they all got us together when we were in the fourth through 8th grade. And Mr. Dennis, our gym teacher, he got us into film and acting. So it was all community oriented. But I went to Voyager for middle school, and then I went to Consortium for high school. And that was on Rosa Parks and Michigan Avenue. And then I was like, you know what? I want to go to a different high school. And then I went to Ethel Ford in Dearborn. So it was definitely, it was different, as far as coming from a predominantly black space and going to a space that was predominantly white and Arabic. Also, just the class of students, everybody had a car, everybody had access to things, and the curriculum was like college. And so it was definitely a difference in realizing what it is that I really want to do as far as like a skill and a trade. When I went into high school, I got a chance to really lean more into my creative expertise, like writing and computers, as far as like designing things. So that's where I got kind of like my background in knowing how to do like Photoshop and learning a little bit about coding and using Dreamweaver and stuff like that. So the difference I saw was like the access that we had to certain resources. And those things I started to question a little bit when I was in school. Like, we didn't have this when I was at Consortium. What's up with that? So, yeah, I graduated from SO4.
All right, and then you mentioned Baton Rouge, too.
Yeah.
And have you been down there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because definitely when we think Louisiana, so many of us think, maybe Shreveport, mostly New Orleans. You think more of that influence, that Cajun influence. I don't know how many of you guys know this just from history books or whatever, but at one point in time, inside of this, I guess, United States of America, as much as we want to label it this, part of this was a province of France. Hence, the capital was down there. I mean, France, this was a footprint. Detroit was a French colony too, but New Orleans, definitely all of Louisiana. So it impacts some of the culture there. But Baton Rouge, I think, still kind of really has that Texas feel. It has like a different essence down there. What's that connection been like in family and and connecting to that city and seeing that and comparing that to Detroit, because it's I mean, New Orleans is definitely different, obviously, but I really think Baton Rouge it's unique, you know.
It is. That's a really good question. When Katrina happened, or a little bit before, Katrina was 2006, or was it 2009?
About 2000, it was about 2006.
It was around, I think it was
Yeah.
2006. I graduated in 2006, and I had already been longing to get down to Baton Rouge thanks to Eve's Bayou, because I was like obsessed with that movie. And I just always felt connected to it. Like, oh, I got to find out, you know, why I love this movie so much. And so I remember just begging my mom. I was like, can we go down to Baton Rouge? Because I found out that she had 7 sisters and 1 brother. And I was like, no, we got to go. So me, my mom, and my brother, we went down right after Katrina. Now, Katrina is what really prompted her. I was like, we have to go. Like, we have to go down there. So we drove down, met all my sisters. I'm sorry, all her sisters, all my aunties.
So your aunties.
Yep, I met the auntie team, like Kanye said. Like, we was listening to, that's when Kanye's his graduation came out.
College
Dropout was around that time. So we was listening to it on the way down. And we was like, we got an auntie team. So we was all geeked to get down there. And I remember the energy was just so different. Like, as soon as we got into the space, it was more rural. A lot of the homes are hand-built. They're one-level homes. And actually, my granddad, my mom's dad, was an artisan, a carpenter. He was an architect. And he built both the homes that we saw when we were down there. And I just remember people waving at us when we got out the car. And I was like, waving at me? Like, you know, so coming from Detroit, if I just waved at somebody, they're going to be like, okay, that's it, you know? But everybody was just like, hunk, you know? And I was like, what's this? Like, why are people waving and speaking to us? And it was my introduction to Southern hospitality. But honestly, I feel like that's something I just always been like anyway. And so that's probably one of the connections that I do have is like that built-in Southern hospitality. Like, I love to just embrace or try to create a way. My default is that. Like, I'm always trying to figure out how we going to connect. And respecting space and boundaries. But, like, you know, hey, come on, let's talk. Let's porch talk. I always call it when we talk over, like, 2-3 hours, we're like, okay, we got to porch talking. I call it porch talking because down south, I got a chance to go to my grandmother's land, and around this area, they have more of like the side, they like dips on the side, like ditches on the side, dirt roads, and her land is right in front of a sugarcane field. And across from that is still my grandmother's best friend, my mom's godmother, and her daughter. And they redid their house, and they built another house behind it, and they sit on their porch. And people hunk, and they sit on their porch for hours. They really, like, got their porch decked out just to sit on the porch and just
kick it.
Hey, how you doing? And I just marvel at that. I find that culture to be, I find it to be very organic, and I find it to be a huge part of what keeps the cultivation of human existence and interaction, as far as especially with Black people. And so I really love that. Like, when I went down there, I saw that, and to stand on my grandmother's land, we had a picture so I could see, like, the home that was there before. And I felt very, very connected. Like, I was just like, I felt like I was at home. Like, it really made a lot of sense to me. Like, okay, this is where I'm from. I can understand it. And I wanted a gold tooth. And I was like, I want a little gold tooth. And I think the year we went down there in 2006, one of my cousins, they was so fly. They had the swoop and the hair, and their boyfriends had Jaguars with 26s and their polo shirts, and they was like, you know Lil Boosie? And I was like, I don't know who that is. What do you mean you don't know who Lil Boosie is? I was like, who? Like, I don't know who that is. And around the corner was a candy lady, you know, that they would always go to. They was like, we got to take you around the corner. And I go around the corner, and the lady, she said, just sit up there. She like, get whatever you want. And on the table was just like a plethora of stuff to rot your teeth. But I didn't care. Like, it was just like, I'm going to keep going over here. And she was just talking. She's like, where you from? And who do your hair? And it was just so loving. I just felt so welcomed. And I love the heat. I love how it felt, and I love that in the morning the breakfast was like pork steaks and biscuits and gravy and bacon, and I mean it was so much hospitality that I was just like, I know where I'm from. Like I felt that strongly. And so fast forward up to now, the past 4 years I've been sitting with my grandmother a lot more, just recording her, having conversations, really trying to do self-exploration, understand myself. And I see a lot of alignments with us. And so I asked her a lot of questions. And I just been taking that time to create like an archive, and she's an outstanding cook, chef. And one of the things that she would always tell me is she don't use no recipes. Like, she just makes stuff. And that's it. And she just know how to do it. And I was like, oh, that's where I get that from. Because I don't know how to, like, I mean, I'll follow them, but if I feel it, I just do it. And then I taste it. And then I, like, give somebody, do it taste good? All right, cool. So I see, like, that connection. And then my daddy told me I could cook, so can't nobody tell me nothing.
Okay.
Like, once he told me that, I could. But, yeah, I see that connection. I mean, the things that she makes, understanding the concept of roux is so powerful to me. Like, it's a French term, but roux is that, it's parts flour, parts water. It's like you making this gravy down, and it's like the base of like a soup or like a making. And I feel like that's what Black people are in totality. We're like the roux of so much. And if you didn't have roux, you pretty much don't have anything. Like, you need that binding element to create something to be whole. And so learning all these different recipes and seeing all just the southern ways that she would just carry stuff together, and she still has that inflection and that accent. Her and rest of my great aunt Soul, they both still grab my pocketbook. I used to love all of that. I loved everything about it. I actually loved when they would have conversations. I would record them when they would talk to each other. My great aunt and my grandma, I would listen to them talk back and forth, and the southern inflection was so calming to me and my nervous system. I would just be like, why this feels so good? I feel like I'm down south on a rocking chair on the porch and just watching the sunset. Like, it was just so beautiful. So just sonically and just being in person and the food and everything like that, I've learned that there's a lot of identity that lies in a lot of that culture that comes from Baton Rouge, and a lot of that identity that has come through our family's lineage. It shines through my mom, my aunt, all of us. And I'm actually doing an exhibit honoring my grandmother that's opening at Gallery Camille March 3rd called Red Clay. So it'll be about that. And the red clay comes from Louisiana. So I'll be talking about that and doing a sound installation. So just to kind of bring that into a full circle element of asking about Baton Rouge, that's how much it has impacted me, and that's how much I want to explore it and profess my love for my family and my lineage.
Okay, installation. So you also, outside of music works, you do artistic works too.
Yeah. I consider them all to be the same. I kind of look at it like being a vessel. And when you get that download, whatever medium it is, that's how I execute it.
So is it, so your installation, I'm guessing, is it more like a abstract pieces? Is it visual art itself? What would it be?
It'll be mixed media.
Okay.
So there'll be a film. There'll be archives of interviews, and there'll also be artifacts. So
when will it be? How do people connect to it? Yeah. What's happening with it?
So it'll be March 3rd through the 25th.
So basically, for Women's History Month, you're honoring your grandmother.
Right, and her birthday is March 7th, and my great aunt's birthday is March 9th. So it's like all kind of tying in together.
Where at?
At Gallery Camille in Midtown, curated by Dahlia Reyes and Diana. And there'll be a total of 13.
Address, Gallery Camille.
I don't know the address right off the back. I'm sorry.
Google it.
But it's in Midtown. It's in Midtown.
It's next to Avalon, right?
It's right next to that. Yeah, it's by Avalon. Yes.
Okay.
So it's in Midtown off of Cass. It's across the street from Detroit Clothing Circle.
Okay.
Or Royale. What's the name of that?
Royale with
The burger
cheese.
spot.
Yeah, Royale with
Yeah.
cheese.
Royale
It's
with
right across
cheese.
the street from there. It's a total of 13 artists, some amazing, brilliant artists. I don't want to give away too much because they're doing a press release. So I'm gonna try to hold out on the name of it. But the name of my installation is Red Clay, which talks about that iron colored dirt that you see that washes over from Mississippi into Louisiana. My grandmother told me stories about it. And so just pretty much translating those intersections between the lineage, the African lineage, and ancestral connection, and then my grandmother's personal experience, but also like the characteristics of clay itself, being representative of my grandmother in so many different ways. You got to come to the installation. I'll have 3 dates where I'll be doing the installations, which will be in the press release too. But it opens March 3rd through the 23rd.
Okay. All right. So now more to some questions on music and how this all kind of came about. Nique, question for you. Now, leading a band or being in bands and building the collective. It's tough enough being in a band. Some people know. I did the band thing for a while, and just getting people to rehearse is tough. And artists love artists. You know what I'm saying? But artists are definitely passionate, emotional, and can, and different things can, almost like heighten like a roller coaster of where their emotions are. So to connect artists in a band is tough. To connect artists in a collective, I assume, is like adding every element of the band: the ego, the passion, the emotion, the commitment, the I ain't making enough money, these people don't like artists, and we need to move to New York or be in LA. What has it been like expanding into a collective, and how has the management been in matching artists with their expectations? Because as artists, we are very passionate about this, and our expectations are very high. So that means that because we have high expectations, those spouts of depression or anxiety or disappointment,
It's real.
they can come fast.
It's real. I think actually it hasn't been difficult at all. I think a part of what makes music, just being an artist, so dope is the nature of like music. Unless you're Prince, music is very collaborative, right? Some of the best songs have 10, 15 songwriters on them. You have the engineer, right, who records the music. You have the engineer who may not have recorded, but who's going to mix and master it. You have, musicians who may come in and add live drums or live. So it's a very collaborative experience. And so that's always just the approach that I've always had, even though like with my band, it's, they're learning, music that I wrote and, performed and stuff like that. But I think when you approach things with the family first mentality and with a
Explain that.
What is that? Yeah, so it's like no one person, like no one person is above the order. Like there's no like hierarchy, right? So like if I'll give you an example. So with my band, it may be Barry, our keyboard player, may have an idea for a song, right? Or like a live arrangement to a song. I'm not going to be like, no, this is how it's done on the record, so I need you to play exactly like this. Like if it's all about, and some people are very, very much like that. But, I've always had the approach of like, whatever's the best thing for this song to translate live to a live audience the best, that's the idea that's gonna win, so it's never shooting down ideas, always considering everything. And that's kind of the approach that we take with Decipher, which is so dope. Like even though I may be the executive director, I'm not making like, yo, we about to do this and this is how it's gonna be. It's all like we all literally have like equal power in like decision making, and so like nothing moves unless all of us are like, okay, we all cool with this. And so it's really, taking that, like we're called D Cipher, it's really taking that like cipher energy, like that hip hop energy of like, if we all in a cipher, everybody's going to contribute, whether you rap, whether you do poetry, whether you sing, whether you clap your hands or whatever. As long as you're in a cipher, you're going to contribute. And, no one element is more important than the other. And so, I've always had that approach, from just me as a artist individually, me as a leader of a band, and then just me with Decipher. And so I think, it starts, that approach is natural, right? And it's just organic. And so when you're moving in that way, you're going to just attract people that also are on that same, like Sophia was talking about, frequencies. Like, you're automatically going to attract people that's on that frequency. And that's, it's been a blessing to just have so many like dope, talented artists who could be easily, like I always tell people, like, I feel like our collective, it's not necessarily competing with each other, but like Detroit's artists, I look at artists like, no, we competing with Drake. Like, we're competing. Like, I always tell Sophia, I'm like, you like Erykah Badu 2.0, like, when I see myself, like, I'm trying to be like, the next like Lauryn Hill, like, and like fill those voids of like, what does a woman MC who's also like, I always tell people, if Lauryn Hill and like Jay-Z like had a baby, it'll be me. Like, that's like that conscious female artist, but that's also like mogul mentality. Like, I'm a weird artist where I love the creative aspect of music, but I also equally love the business aspect of music. And it's like, I love them. I don't see them as separate. Like, it's an art. Like, businesses are just another form of creative art to me. And so just, having that approach of just family, I think it's going to flow organically.
So, Juuni, the question for you now is, since everything is easy and people work like a family, what has it been like pursuing and creating opportunities for the artists that are part of D Cipher? Because that's the other side that possibly could, but that may be easy too. How has that been?
Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about how we started, once we started getting some momentum, really, it was because we were rehearsing and just having jam sessions in public spaces.
Facts.
That's really how we got started. And since then, like I said, we were talking about us actually getting funding behind it. And but it started from an organic sense of, hey, look, there's a space and it's summertime and we could be outside, so let's do it, In other situations, just even at my house on the east side, I have hosted and still host rehearsals at my house. And, when it's warm, we'll be outside. The grill will be going. We'll be cooking food. You know what I'm saying? All of us, we love to cook and eat.
Yep.
So we'll be out there grilling and rehearsing. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that I found is that, just being in the driveway rehearsing, the neighborhood loves it. The neighborhood loves it, and I found so many musicians and people that are just passionate about music. Whether they do it professionally or not, it really just cultivates a higher sense of community. On that music level, being used as a tool, and it's been enriching for our own lives to be able to express this in the places that we live. But we've also been organically enriching other people's lives too. So as far as, formalizing this into what we call a Decipher, it's really, just us being ourselves and just being about our craft first. That's how we started. And now, for the last, this is our 6th year now in a formal Decipher sense. And, we just carried that out, and when it comes to inviting other musicians to perform on the stages that we host at, it's really just inviting our friends. That's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because like we were talking about, we perform together sometimes, but we also perform separately. So in the other groups that we perform with, really it's just like, hey, we have a stage, we have a platform, we've generated some funding for it. Do you have time to perform on this stage? One of the main things when we started, and today even more so that we continue to grow as our foundation, is that we want to have opportunities that artists can get paid fairly for. You know what I'm saying? Not just, hey, on the love, come perform on the stage just because we got something. No, it's like, no, we actually have money that we would want to be paid for our performance. And we want to invite our friends and other people in this community of musicians to perform at home. Now, we know as musicians, because we've also toured in different places, like we were talking about Texas at South by Southwest, Montreal, Toronto. You know what I'm saying? We've gone overseas in all sorts of different formations. But what we realize is that here at home, there's not a lot of opportunities to do what we do at home.
And that's kind of the
facts.
And that's really more so the other side of the question. And that's where, like, when people always say, when you gonna do something again? When you gonna do something again? It's the question is such a long answer, but at the root of it, you know, I find more lucrative the other things that I'm working on now. And it just takes, like, I feel like I gotta build Rome because of the rehearsals. Like, so for people watching, to deliver a good show for me and Kari Way Frazier performing in general population, to get on the stage again, as much as people are saying, technically, because we haven't performed since we did the DIA performance, and that may have been back in like 2015. So we probably need about 4 good rehearsals where I at minimum probably will get, you know, my 2 vocalists, poet, bass, drums, guitar, keys, percussion. So, and then me to band lead alone. So you combine all of that, and then, you know, they're gonna have to. I gotta pay them for the rehearsal. Yeah. They gotta relearn the material and the set list of however we're gonna do it. Obviously, just like the presence of mind, I'm not. You know, I ain't Mariah Carey, but I'm gonna probably wear something kind of cool. So I'm gonna buy whatever I'm gonna wear. You know, same thing with the band, especially the women in my group. They're gonna probably want to get their nails done, hair done, all of that stuff. So technically, you know, it'd be great for performance at base level to get $2,500. Now, to do a full set for $2,500, and then I've been on the other side of this too. I've been a promoter. So as a promoter, it's like, okay, $2,500, the average person in Detroit probably want to pay like $25 a ticket. So that means off bail, and $25 a ticket, as we know, and a lot of y'all going to the Willis are getting some good entertainment at the cost of that bar. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Probably paying way less than that.
Say that.
So $25, if I'm just a straight promoter, that means that if 100 people walked in, I only paid the band. I didn't pay myself nothing. That's not if I did Facebook ads, the people that, you know, the band saying like, hey, my girlfriend got to get in for free, or my boyfriend got to get in for free, or my manager, you know, everybody got a manager. So like I've been in both sides of this. So it's like finding that balance where you want to give something that's pay fair, but you also want to honor the fact that it is a business. Sometimes these things get crossed. Recently, like, people keep putting up the post of Rihanna got paid $0, as most people don't get paid anything for performing at the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's been consistent
Thank you.
every year.
That's
Now, with that, performing for exposure is just something that any artist that's been doing this for more than 5 years, you should not be wanting to do that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now, if you choose to offer your performance, that's different, but that's at like that's at my own volition.
It's the ROI.
Yeah.
It's what you gonna get. Like, I think they said Rihanna's streaming went up, like, or her search for her Fenty brand went up like 833%. Like, her streams.
I still would question whether it did or whether it didn't.
Through the roof.
I still would question whether it
For
did
sure.
or whether it didn't, because I can guarantee you this. You know, if the NFL does something on Rihanna's stage, you know what I'm saying? Like, the NFL not about to send Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and I don't even know, Tom Brady to come give a thank you for Rihanna for being at the NFL stadium. They ain't gonna let them do that for free and be like, hey, it's exposure for the NFL. You want people to start watching again. So I kind of have those battles personally.
It's definitely it's, I always tell people, it's like it's your especially, you know, we have conversations all the time about artist value, right? And it really, I think, boils down to there's a reason artists want to perform at the Super Bowl for free. You know, like every big artist has done it, and it's like it has to be a why. So I think it's just always like, as an artist, it's you have to question, I think, your definition of success first as an artist, and also understand, like, you know, what, like you said, like a minimum $2,500, right, for a band. Some bands, you know, are like,
I don't know
yo,
if I'm saying minimum, but
or
I would
minimum,
want that.
or
I would
right, for
want
sure,
that.
for
I
sure,
would
for
want
sure.
that.
But
Yeah.
like, you know, like some artists, you know, it's like, man, we just getting started. We'll perform for 500. You know,
200.
200.
Yeah,
It's many
200,
between me and you.
200,
It's a lot of
100.
artists. It's a lot of
Right.
artists that will perform for
Right.
free, straight up.
Absolutely. But like if and so it's like it's that balance. Like I think when you first getting started and it's like when you're trying to like it's like your performance is currency, right? So it's like unless people know that you can get a good show, you're not gonna get placed anywhere because people don't really know. Like, and so early on, like artists are performing for free or for the super duper low and like building almost like building that track record. And then you get to a point where it's like, no, I'm not coming out the house for X amount of dollars, right? And so it's always that fine line, and I think it really boils down to like the value and the you know, what do you want out of it? And I think that's something that you always have to be mindful of like if whether you're the biggest artist on Rihanna level, like she got a check from Apple because they filmed a whole documentary around her Super Bowl performance. You know, I'm sure there's some a upfront check, and I'm sure there's some equity in that, right? So that's like residual income where you don't gotta get out the bed. You're gonna wake up, and whenever that's streaming, you probably gonna get something for it. And so, you know, I think it's just, you know, thinking about as an artist, where do you see yourself? Well, how do you define success? You know, like,
And that's where, and at the root, I asked this question because, you know, in that you all are providing some opportunity for artists where it's so many artists that, to me, and this is me being back in my business hat, because I'm like, I'm a lot. I feel your energy, Nique. You're almost regurgitating a lot of things that I would have said at one point in time, but it's sad. But I think a lot of artists put themselves in a position to be prostituted themselves
100%.
because many times artists say, I don't like none of the business stuff. I just want to do the art
100%,
stuff.
which is
puts
crazy.
you in the position where the person that does the business stuff is obviously only going to do business matters, even if it's not against you. And I'm not trying to say to look after, but if I'm a business person, I'm going to put the artists in the positions that are most advantageous for me as the business person, as opposed to even taking into consideration, okay, where your art is. So when I think of now how I look at offerings, it's offerings. And then it
absolutely,
you know, even when I do my a lot of studio, and I'm going to be talking to you guys, and you all have this too, because this is the other thing that I think a lot of artists, you know, these festivals have free shows sometimes. So you may get a good check for a free festival, but that'll say to me, a promoter that wants to do a paid gig, to say, okay, I can't book you because if you're performing for at Arts Beats and Eats for $10 on Saturday, and then I got this show that I'm trying to book where it's a $30 ticket, you done stepped on my, you know, you done stepped on my gig, man. Like, I can't book you. And then I definitely am not about to say I'm not paying you enough for exclusivity in and out, but like, this is where the layers come. Like, you know, how often, or, you know, you just feeling it, you know, your homeboy down at Motor City Wine, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna just sit in with them for 5 songs, but they don't feel like they done got a show. You done stepped on the promoter that booked you for tomorrow.
It's that business, man. Like, and it's and that's one of the things. So people know D Cipher for like our live shows, which we do offer for free. Like, we do like all of our the Quender Cut series, our distillery series. We offer that for the free ball. And we still pay artists well, and you know, big shout out to like our like sponsors and like grants and things like that. So we really like hustle to be able to kind of
be in that position,
to be in that position, and to kind of remove that barrier of entry from people attending. But you know, it almost like hurts my heart when I hear artists say like, I don't care about the business, and it's like, dude, like, you are in the music business, and it's like it's it's and so one of the things that we do at Decipher outside of the live shows that people really like most know us for is we do a lot of professional development. So we offer what we call our off the record series, which is like a master class where we bring in more like seasoned musicians and veterans, and they come in like share their story and kind of their journey through the industry. Like we did one with the jazz legend Wendell Harrison. We just had Pocket Queen last month, who's drummed for Beyonce. Galen McKinney, who was Aretha Franklin's drummer and a dope artist and her own
big homie.
And hell yeah,
big homie.
yeah, Galen. And so we do what we call knowledge ciphers, where we bring in folks and we have panel discussions. Like we did one with Mama Ngia, and who curates all of the
a lot of
everything,
of the shows.
everything. Her and Jamie Wilkins, who helps curate Art to Beats and Eat stuff, and talked about how can artists make themselves more bookable, and what does that look like? What are they looking for? We talk about management. We talk about looking at yourself as a business. That's something that we always talk about. Artists, musicians are small businesses, right? Like you have, like you say, you have expenses. You trying to get a fit for the show. You got rehearsal. You got studio time. You got, I always joke with the band and these guys. I'm like, man, like I got it good. All I got to do is pay for microphones and stuff for shows. Like, and I don't even, most venues they have a microphone, but I'm like a germaphobe now, and I'm very particular about the microphones I use. So I was like, I want to have all Sennheiser microphones for my show. So I'm like a collector of just microphones. But you think about like the drums and different keys and synthesizers and different guitars and guitar amps and all of that stuff. Like all of that costs. All of those are business expenses. All of those are things you can write off as a business expense on your taxes. Like you can be like, and so even talking about like set yourself up as a LLC, separate your personal financial money from your music.
Get insurance for your equipment.
Get insurance for your equipment. Oh, did you know you made that song? You can license this song, and so how do you do that? And so like thinking about all of the different intricacies of the music business, it's like you don't have to like have a record deal anymore. Like it's so many opportunities. And then like I think of people like Sophia, who's now like used her platform as a musician to build other things. Like,
and that's kind of what I've done in many ways, and I think many have. And I bring that up just because that grind. It's a lot of things to think about because at the root of most of this stuff, even me still doing events, the music is definitely well appreciated for people, but even that call to action and how they appreciate it, it's the experience. And what experience are you even offering if you're taking your fans on that journey too? So these are things to think about like in the long run. And it's very tough because if you probably may have a band of 4 people at minimum, so you're thinking like, okay, at worst, I may just be able to gun it, get 150 a man, as they say, and hopefully as a leader, I may be able to get 200, and work something out, give a short set and go. It can be tough. Like this grind can be tough, and then like people like me that offer like more of a community stage, or prices may have to change depending upon what it is, what's the venue, how often you've been over there, how you want to promote it, how engaged you want to be in reference to that. It can be daunting, and you all are providing a heck of an opportunity. So I just want you first off to applaud that, but I also want you all to know that as you are providing this, it's so needed because it's still not enough venues to perform music in the city of Detroit.
Venues that don't want to pay, like, oh my God.
That's the thing, because it's a lot of the venues, not everybody, but the majority of venues don't even really respect the music.
$15 drinks and can't pay the band.
Exactly. Like, we doing the math, and we see who's coming in here, and we understand, like, what kind of money's being made behind the bar. However, that's exactly why we were like, we're not just going to talk about all of our problems as musicians. We're actually going to provide a solution. And that's what our journey has been for the last 5. Now this is our 6th year. And, going into it, we didn't know this is how it would unfold. But, the whole point is to cultivate cultivate a new culture in our city. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
I'm with it.
Right.
And cultivate it from the musician standpoint, because when we think about, I mean, even back in the day, you know, there were a lot of venues, but they did have a union for musicians. You know what I'm saying? There's still a union, but you know how effective it is. You know, that's up for debate. But the fact is like we really wanted to turn that perspective, you know, and really shift that perspective so that it's coming from the musician standpoint and curating. I mean, not curating, but making sure that the stages are coming from a standpoint from the musician first, not
Yep.
just who's coming in the door,
Right,
how much the bar is getting, or how much, you know, clout does this give for my venue.
Yeah.
And that usually is that becomes the debate, that call to action. But also on you guys watching this, when you all see some live entertainment, when you connect with live entertainment, know that as you're connecting with live entertainment, you got to support it. You have to want to pay for those shows, because if the only time you're seeing Detroit artists are when it's free, quote unquote, but then the only time you're paying for artists are when they're, as I guess we label them, like national acts, but more like the machine behind them, the pop culture acts, then that doesn't get the artists that true access. Hence, like when if you go to a city like Nashville, if you go to cities like Austin, if you go to New York, if you go to LA, like it's supporting a district of like having an understanding that live entertainment is a part of the ethos of the space, as opposed to it being like, oh, we can just get a DJ, and now that people like, oh, we can just get a playlist. You know what I'm saying?
We
Right.
gotta look at
That's
why
Spotify.
though too. Like why I think now too, if we just look at how we've evolved, like Black people as a culture. The reason why our ancestors then, musicians then, they were performing and getting out energy of creation for a totally different reason as to why we were. And so the need and desire for a sense of advocacy was like, it was scarce. Like people could not actually be in the sense of they wanted to band together and be advocates. They were just doing it because they had to, but they also were enjoying it, and it also was a sense of them liberating themselves in front of people who didn't value them. But now that we have access to certain resources, I think that's why it goes back to what you were saying about this being a newer culture, which to me is still, you know, human evolution of how we look at things. Like we have all these resources, and now we have to actually sit down and think about, why are we showing up? How are we showing up? How are we going to grow this in a more holistic way? That's what I feel makes us very unique, is because we look at this as an ecosystem. And so we are wanting to have those conversations with everybody who is a part of this ecosystem. So there aren't any blinders or there are any reasons of like, you don't understand why this is working this way. And we can better examine what those intersections are. So if I think about some of the people I was mentioning earlier, or even if I think about 2 or 3 generations ago of who was learning how to play guitar and who was singing on stage in front of an all-white audience and crowd, I mean, it's a totally different reason and purpose that was behind that. And it was a lot more pressure. I mean, now it's very different. Our generation is really trying to find identity through a lot of the things that they're doing. So through that identity, how do we know what to ask for when it comes to value? And so we have to establish that. And I feel like that is what we're doing now. Like I do feel like I was blessed to be able to have this familyship, to be able to learn, because there was a lot of things that I didn't know about that I was able to witness and see being around Nick and Wayne. And then once I started getting booked myself, I was just grateful to have musicians who had already been experienced. And so that pushed me to say, if I'm going to be in this space, I'm looking at it from a long-term standpoint of maybe I should do more of a residency. And I need us to be getting paid more than $200, $300, because now I'm playing with tenured or experienced musicians, and I want them to know that I value their time. I value that they like, you know, I'm just popping up. I got some songs, you know, like, oh, okay. You believe in what I'm doing, maybe because I'm passionate, but on my end, how do I ensure that you understand in that transaction exchange, besides us just being cool, how do I also show in a way through a business mind that I value what you're doing? And also this is me holding the people who are asking me to come to that space to provide what we have, which is unique. I'm holding them accountable to make sure that we understand that we are valued through that transaction of currency. But not just currency. Let's just make sure that as far as how everyone is treated is with respect. Let's make sure you have the basic things that we need so that we can provide this type of experience. So we do get a chance to really examine, I think, the difference between certain generations as to why they were performing, how they were performing, and what was there to support them versus now. And I feel like a lot of people have learned that they have access to a lot of things and that, they want to be in a space, but maybe not know why or how. And
I think, and as you say that, it's so unique because I still run into a lot of people that like a lot of MCs sometimes. They be like, man, you need to put me out. You need to put me out. And the first question I always say is, all right, cool. How long you been rapping? And whatever they say, 3-4 years or whatever. And I say, all right, who's your favorite rapper? And then usually, now it's like Drake or Future. Nowadays it'd be like, Babyface Ray or something. And then it'd be like, all right, so when's the last time you bought some music from Babyface Ray? Blank face. Yep. When's the last time you paid for a Babyface Ray concert? Blank face. When's the last time you paid for anything associated with Babyface Ray? And then it's like, okay, so who are the people actually purchasing and buying music today?
Right.
Yep.
Or the type of music you want to make. Because you obviously aren't a buyer as much as you're a consumer.
Yep.
So the consumer in this music industry, in this transition, has become abundant. But who the buyer is so different. I used to spend so much money buying music. I almost had part-time jobs just to buy stuff. But that was a while ago. Whereas like, so as the barriers of entry to get into a studio drop and the barriers of entry to get on stage drop, it heightens the access. And as you say, like some music that we can hear, but it also, in lowering it's devalued some of like us redefining what the value of the performance is, of what music is. And this is even for some of us that make it, because when you ask a lot of people, it's like, well, do you buy music? And a lot of the question comes back as probably not.
Nope.
So it's like, who is that audience? Who is buying that? And it's slowly but surely like some like enclaves and some pockets and everything, but making that connection, as much as I'm speaking to you all, this is more like me talking to the whole music industry. We have to really offer people a stronger experience that they're going to want to connect to. So now it's like, okay, I can quantify this. I'm going in my pocket and I'm paying, because without that, and that's kind of what I think. So yes, will I hire just from the promoter lens? Because I've been this person. It's like, okay, this band is excellent. They're a 10 and they want $1,500. This band, they're okay. They want $500, but they do enough covers where people will party and they'll have some fun. Hire the $500 band, and that's cool, Or furthermore, it can just come to hire the $300 karaoke person. It's something for people to do. It's band night on Monday, and Tuesday is karaoke night, and Wednesday is poetry night, and Thursday is comedy night, and Friday is ladies in free night. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not necessarily really connecting. Hence, if you're a musician, these aren't the types of venues that you probably need to be thinking that are the venues that will grow your career. But this becomes a reality for a lot of people wanting to perform music. And then you got your siblings, your brother, your sister, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Like, man, what you doing? What are you doing?
But I just see it as what we're doing on we have a different mission. Our real mission is really to contribute to our community. That's really what our foundation is. And even when our rates don't always match up with everybody that we want to have, that we want to have on our stage, thankfully we have good relationships. You know what I'm saying? And they understand the mission. And, because we're on that promoter end too. So, sometimes we do have to negotiate that rate. However, with the greater mission of contributing to, the community that we're in, that we're all a part of, then it becomes something else. It's not just, all right, this is the Wednesday night. What
Yep.
else happens on the Wednesday? Can I get paid more over here as a musician, or can I get should I take this this stage that the Cipher is doing? It becomes something more than that because we, based on especially last year, what I'm saying. I mean, every year that we've been doing this, especially last year,
That's
like the
crazy.
caliber of artists that we've had in our stages, a lot of them should have said no. I mean, based on the money alone, you know what I'm saying? If it was anybody else, they would have just said no. But because of, again,
The
relationship
reputation
and
the reputation,
Mm-hmm.
and then
and because
actually,
of what we're offering to the community, and because of our mission
Yep.
in that specific area, it has a different return on the investment.
It's leading with spirit first. It's that, I think like business oftentimes gets a bad rap. And I always think of Kendrick Lamar said a line in one of his recent songs. He said, "I'm not in the music business, I'm in the human business." And that's really, business is just another way humans connect with each other. And you can do that very viciously and very selfishly, where profit is over the person, or you can do it with a servant mentality of like, how can I serve my community? How can I? And I think when it's done that way, it's not necessarily that you're not going to make any money or be as successful. I think it's really like the latter. Like, you're going to be more successful because you have those relationships. I think of, we talk about mainstream artists. It's one of the reasons why DJ Khaled can get Jay-Z and Beyonce off their couch on a song together multiple times, because it's that, like people always speak of him as like, man, he's just a good dude. Like he's, and it's like when you're leading with that spirit and like a good heart and that purity and that sincerity, people will,
and I
mess with you then.
and the main thing why in this world, just from my own bias and seeing it, because music and just entertainment in general, because just due to so much of that emotion, that passion, it's a lot of usury. It's a lot of like, even in walking a path of like, if I'm going to walk this righteous path, you're walking into
Sharks.
a den where most other people are not going to have that alignment. Most other people are going to make the exploitive decision as if this is just naturally a part of it. Like, I mean, the classic, like, oh, well, in entertainment, you always get done bad on your first deal. This is just like an understood reality that's just accepted.
Yep.
In entertainment business, whether I agree with it or don't agree with it, I'm just saying these are like some of the ethics. So to walk that path is strong, and I do believe that is why you all have so much support, success. I definitely applaud it. I see what you all have been doing, and I tip my hat, because in my mind, I know it's been easy for you all, but even from the outside in, I can only imagine that it would be a fruitful but very committed task to deliver some of the things that you all have done, and it's and I applaud it. So as we get closer to an end, I usually have my classic Detroit is different questions, but I want to ask you guys a different type of question. Music people here, so the if we were, one of the things I always wanted was like a day that like most venues across like a week, most venues could have like live music and live entertainment in and around just everywhere in Detroit, something like that. Talk to the people a little bit about what you're thinking for that person watching this that may have like a bakery, a coffee shop, a place where live music usually doesn't happen. And you all have worked with a lot of places like that. Sell them on what live music does bring to the space.
Oh, it's a spiritual activation. That's it. I mean, it comes from a place where it's rooted, they say in the belly, but it comes from a place where it's very authentic, and it's there because it's from people that was there before us. So it's a message, it's getting sent down. But to talk about space and like placemaking, space has a lot to do with why sound music, arts, and culture needs to holistically be present. It's definitely reminiscent of like a village. You usually have all these different components in the same place anyway. So you got the bazaars, you got the musicians, You got the witch doctors, you got the protectors, you got all these things that in ceremony, all these things take place, and traditions and ceremonies, they all happen to keep the ecosystem going. So what has happened now up to date, it's isolated, it's different. It's not seen as a necessity, or it's not seen as a sustainable, or it's not seen as something that business owners think about investing in, because now we're in a capitalistic environment. All of a sudden it's about commodifying, and so that was taught from colonizers. So we have to retrain our minds and start to really feel deeper into what it is that we're really trying to do. Think about the substance of what we're trying to do, and build from that. So if you have a space and you got an event going on or something like that, and you have somebody set up on the side playing guitar, that's just going to add a warm, organic element to what you're doing that's going to help further sell or help further connect. To me, I don't think about selling, because if you're going to do what you're going to do, it's going to work out anyway. It ain't always about selling, because when you are obedient to whatever is activating within you spiritually, you already going to call to, or you're going to be brought to what it is that's going to help it thrive or be cultivated in the first place. So we have to stop thinking in a mind frame of separation, and especially here in Detroit. I mean, we're considered Motown. Detroit, we're considered. I mean, we're the heart and originality of so much. Excuse me, I'm kind of cold, like trying to stop shattering. But we're the heart and originality of so much. A lot has come out of Detroit as far as helping to cultivate and create. What seems like a momentum and a marathon for other cultures to thrive off of, other countries to thrive off of. So if you think about when you come here and we got to figure out and count on our fingers where we're going to go to listen to music, it actually feels very unnatural. It feels unnatural that, when we go outside, we don't see people just busking for no reason. We can go to other places. We can go to Chicago, see a drum circle and all these things like that. But if you do have businesses and spaces where people are present, adding an element of art is only going to enrich that experience. It's going to create more connection. You can't lose. You can't lose. What are you going to miss out on? You're going to say, okay, I got to think about what equipment I'm going to get, what this is that. Who people thinking about, I work in customer service too. We think about the non-consumers. You might draw people there who just want to hear the music, and eventually they'll buy your food. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win situation when you put community first, I think. And so if we start to remove those veils of isolation, our community will start to thrive more, and then we can sit more in our ownership of the space instead of having outsiders come in and start to claim space where the energy has been cultivated on the grounds, and that's why they know where to go. All they got to do is just put a building on top of that energy, and then it just starts to fill up with people. Mm-hmm. Okay. If we start to understand that formula, we understand how important a spiritual activation is, and then we can take ownership of that, and we can thrive off of that the way we should.
Okay.
It's community. I think one of the things I think of, and I feel like people are slowly getting it, like the value of live music. I think we saw that even more. Just look at what happened with the pandemic, when live music, you had no there was no live music, right? And how we did our summer series in summer 2020, and we was scared. We was like, are we gonna be able to do the summer series? It's outside. People are saying it's safe to gather outside. Would they show up? That was our biggest year, of the summer, and like people was showing up, pulling up their lawn chairs, face masked up, but people literally saw people with tears in their eyes because they were like, yo, it felt so good to just be outside in community and see a human in real life and not on a Zoom screen. Or it was dope to see musicians like, yo, this is my first time performing since before the pandemic. It felt so good to perform. I feel like I'm in my purpose again. And so that's music is powerful. And I just pulled up a study that I always find super interesting. So it was a study done by a scientist named Patrick Fagan at Goldsmith University. But attending a concert every 2 weeks can add 9 years to your life.
Ain't that something?
they found that after 20 minutes of attending a concert, one's well-being factor increased by 21%. This study shows that it's higher than walking your dog, doing yoga. It's, and so like just the live music, what it does to your well-being. We talk about like mental health, and everybody wants to be a mental health advocate, right? And it's like, but if you're not really actively doing anything, right? If there's people, full of depression and anxiety, they're not going you're not going to want to go out your house, like I remember it just even like during the pandemic, like just being so full of anxiety where it's like, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay right here. Live music, it kind of breaks that a little bit, even if it's temporarily. And I think it gives people hope. It gives people community. And in that, you're contributing to people's physical and mental well-being as well. And so it's like, if you're a business and if you're really about, if you don't have no customers, if there's no people to buy your product, you're going to be out of business anyway, right? And so why not have something that's not only going to draw in more customers, because like being real, like music adds the sauce to everything. It's why commercials have music. It's why movies have music in it. It's like music adds that sauce. So why not add something that's only going to add value to your business? At the end of the day, it's going to bring in new customers. It's going to make people feel good in your space. That's why they play music when you shopping, because if you feeling good and you running up them dollars, like how did I spend $250 at Target and I just came in to buy some toilet paper? But like that music and like just that energy of like, it's a reason why music is everywhere. It's why, people have jingles for commercials and stuff. So elevator music, every music is literally everywhere. And so, as a business, I think it's a smart business. If you want to have people, if you care about people, you'll have music.
Yeah. And, I just think about it. I mean, it's tax season now. So, when you do your taxes, you hire a CPA, you hire somebody who does this. You know what I'm saying? When you're not feeling well, if you believe in doctors, you go to a doctor to, or somebody that is in the healing space to help heal you. You know what I'm saying? You hire the professional. And as musicians, that is something that we study. You know what I'm saying? We study the craft of who the human being is. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're centered on. We understand feeling. You know what I'm saying? The chords that we put down, how we compose the music. All this is to take you on a journey of emotions and of a human element, like who you are as a human, and revealing things about who human and people are. So, from a business standpoint, or people who have these organizations who don't necessarily understand, the human, they understand their product, but they don't necessarily understand the human all the way. I feel like musicians and people who do music, you're hiring them professionals. You know what I'm saying? That's your shortcut, So hire the people who do it well. And then on top of that, on another end, if we're thinking about where we are in today's world with developing content, the whole idea about generating content is not just to, put stuff out in the world, to sell people, but it's actually building interest in your product when you put out content. You know what I'm saying? So the more content you put out, what you're doing, most of it is not a hard sell. Most of it is you just generating interest in people to see your product and be interested in your whole world of what your product and business is. And then you can, give them that call to action at some point. So when it comes to music, again, this is a tool that you could use to develop that content to generate the interest into your business and what your product is.
I love what you said. You closed out on a high note, something that I love, where I transitioned into this world of creating so much content. This podcast started as a vehicle to talk about my project and so much more now. And like I tell many of my clients, as I create a lot of content for smaller organizations or projects and things just reaching like legacy Black Detroit, grassroots Detroit. But my degree's from Walsh and stuff, so I'm experiencing this marketing. But okay, over the past 12 years now, people have wondered, what talent does Kim Kardashian have? What talent does Kim Kardashian have? What does she do? What does she do? She's had the most followed social media account, I want to say, for about the past 7 years. And little do we know, now she's incepted so much of a movement be into the plastic surgeons of America have paid so much money into her branding. So she's so much into plastic surgery now, where it's become such a common space discussion that something that was probably only had by, in certain select groups 12 years ago has now transitioned to a topic of discussion in women of all ages, to even men of all ages not having this discussion about plastic surgery. So that now it's like, you can finance your plastic surgery and all this stuff. And this is the power of, as you said, the sell without selling. Now, do I agree with any of that stuff? Not necessarily, but I do want to just let you know that that's how content marketing transition the way we look at a whole procedure, a voluntary medical procedure right now. Where everybody's like, well, usually if you have a discussion with most Americans, probably between the age of 20 and 50, and when I say most, I'm generalizing, so an overwhelming majority, most people will say, all right, I wouldn't do this, but I would change a little of this and change a little of that and change a little of this and change a little of that. Same people that was like, what's Lil' Kim doing? What did Michael Jackson do? All of that completely changed all through content marketing. So it's strong. So D Cipher, love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay creative, and I see some collaboration happening.
Absolutely.
This is the first of many.
Yes.
Peace and blessings. Detroit is different. We out here.
Definitely. Peace be.
All right.
Peace.